Hi, everyone. Day one of the Global Ethics Summit is drawing to a close, and we're going to talk about what was covered and what's in store for day two. I'm your host, Bill Coffin, and this is the Ethicast. Hi, everyone. We are streaming to you live from Atlanta, Georgia, at the Georgia World Conference Center at the Global Ethics Summit. We are bringing to the end of our first day is BELA Day, a day of content aimed strictly at the Business Ethics Leadership Alliance community. It's been a fantastic day so far, and I want to run you through some of the things we've covered already today and what we queued up for tomorrow. So we began the day with some terrific opening remarks from Erica Salmon Byrne and Kevin McCormack, talking about the state of the BELA community, what Ethisphere has done on behalf of it over the last year, and what we have in store for the year ahead. Fantastic insights. And I want to stop really quick with a somewhat self-serving note and mention how Erica had talked about the BELA Asks Ethicast series that we've been running all year long, in which BELA members have brought their questions, concerns, and general points of interest to our attention, so we can speak to them from a very, very high level. And we want to encourage that. We've had some great series so far. And since we'll be broadcasting to you here live throughout the course of the Global Ethics Summit, BELA members, come on by the Ethicast desk. We want to hear from you. Bring your questions to us. Erica and I will answer them for you live here at the summit. But beyond that, we had the voice of BELA, the role of the rise of the Chief Compliance Officer, a terrific panel discussion featuring thought leaders previously from Bayer AG, from First Energy, from Cox Enterprises, and from TE Connectivity, talking about the very swiftly evolving role of the Chief Compliance Officer. Definitely over the last 10 years, we have seen the role, the remit, the responsibility of the CCO morph from a purely compliance role into the CCO role, having a seat at the table at the highest strategic levels of an organization and really building value. But as compliance risk, as ethics risk, as regulatory risk, as all those associated risks are changing at an extraordinary pace, so too is what is required of the CCO as a strategic leader for the enterprise. So this panel discussion got very deep into that, talking about best practices, talking about forward-looking insights. It was a fantastic conversation that drove a lot of value for people to understand how can their role continue to build value for the organization, and looking ahead, how can you maintain your strength as a CCO within your organization? Really fantastic stuff. Beyond that, we had our first keynote address of the day, valuing corporate compliance inside the research connecting compliance and revenue, featuring Todd Hall and Sunil Bedi from Indiana University's Kelley School of Business. These two academics have they've conducted some fantastic research, rather groundbreaking, that connects the presence of a strong compliance program within an organization directly to an increased market valuation of their products and services. So they talked about how a company that has a really strong compliance program can actually charge a higher price for their product in a marketplace, and the market will respond to that. So it's a fantastic through line, a solid line connecting the strength of a compliance program to the viability of a company in the marketplace, and firmly removing compliance from the realm of just of it being a cost center to actually being part and parcel of the value-making apparatus within an organization. Fantastic research these guys are conducting. There's only more coming from the Kelley School of Business. That's an academic powerhouse that really demands everybody's attention. And this keynote was a fantastic look into what they're doing and the research that they're conducting. Beyond that, we had our second keynote address, which was a fireside chat with the DOJ, Regulator Review on Compliance Transformation, Leveraging Data, Processes, and Technology. In this chat, Ethisphere's very own Erica Salmon Byrne sat down with Matt Galvin of the DOJ. He's counsel, data analytics, and compliance for the DOJ's criminal division fraud section. And this conversation was very wide-ranging. It was very hard-hitting. And some of the points that were of particular interest was when they rounded on the topic of artificial intelligence. Erica had very sagely pointed out that over the last year, what AI does, says, means, prospects for the business integrity space has made a quantum leap over the last 12 months. This time last year at the Global Ethics Summit, we were simply talking about the impact AI may have in this space as more or less a hypothetical. A year later, now it is deeply operationalized and is still evolving at an extraordinary pace. And Galvin had some fantastic comments to say about where he thought the pace of AI change is going to go, what kind of risk it posed, and most importantly, what kind of impact this is going to have on compliance programs, especially those with a vested interest in keeping up with the ever-changing requirements coming from the DOJ itself. So when you're seeking best practices and how to incorporate data analytics and also the impact AI is having on all these things, Galvin has some very, very interesting things to say. Now, I will point out, most of the content from the Global Ethics Summit, it will be available on demand afterwards. Unfortunately, this particular session will not be on demand. So if you missed it, I'm sorry. You had to be there to really see it, either to be here live or to stream it online. But I will tell you this. The points that Mr. Galvin raised were fantastic. They were fundamental. They were evergreen. And I have no doubt that the insights that we gleaned from that particular conversation will make themselves felt in some other way in Ethisphere's content or the rest of the year. But so certainly, sorry if you missed it. It was a fantastic conversation, but there's plenty more where that came from. Beyond that, I actually took to the stage to join my colleagues at Ethisphere, Doug Allen and Neil Thurston, as we discuss some of the data insights coming from the World's Most Ethical Companies 2024 class of honorees. We talked about the presence, the role, the enforceability of codes of conduct. We talked about manager training. We talked about speak up reporting, and we even talked about the degree to which organizations actually share reported incidents across the organizations themselves. And we had great comments from both Neil and Doug. Neil is coming at it from a very hardcore WME applicant data pool perspective, and Doug was lending his cultural expertise as the leader of our culture offerings. So this conversation was fantastic. Unfortunately, it only ran for 25 minutes. It could have gone on for 250 minutes. It was absolutely fantastic. I very much enjoyed speaking with both of them. But there will be more coming on that, especially at the end of June. We will be publishing a special issue of Ethisphere magazine called The Insider's Guide to the World's Most Ethical Companies. And when that publishes, it'll include some honoree profiles. It'll include a deeper dive into the data and insights from the world's most ethical companies. And it'll also include some points on methodology and more. So if you are interested in the world's most ethical companies, and who isn't, please make sure to keep your eyes peeled. We are looking to drop that issue digitally at magazine.ethisphere.com near the end of June. And then beyond that, we had a second panel discussion for the day. This was Living Your Cultures and Values, Manifesting a Stakeholder Mindset to Turn Integrity Ideals into Action. This is a fantastic panel stocked with talent, including thought leaders from Dell Technologies, Voya Financial, Public Service Enterprise Group, HP Incorporated, and ADM. And the upshot of this conversation was quite fascinating. It talked about how a lot of organizations have stated cultures, they have their cultural intent, they have their ethics and compliance program, but these things sometimes don't always align in the most effective way. And what they talked about were their own insights, their own success stories, and how utilizing a stakeholder mindset within the organization was a really keen way to make sure that the cultural aspirations, the values of the culture within the organization become operationalized in day-to-day activities and really make these part of the firmament of how the business operates. Fascinating stuff, really interesting on how they're taking sort of, more ephemeral concepts and translating them into actual day-to-day operations. So once again, the strength of the Global Ethics Summit is always based on the wonderful thought leaders and speakers we bring to the stage. This panel was a who's who and what's what of fantastic thought leadership. So it was a really great way to end the day. Moving on from that, we are now currently in the BELA Impact Awards, where Ethisphere will be acknowledging and celebrating those leaders within the Business Ethics Leadership Alliance community who have really gone above and beyond to serve the community, to share their expertise, and to really make the community what it is, which is the world's foremost gathering of ethics and compliance professionals. Those awards are happening right now on the main stage, and after that is done, we'll move on to a BELA cocktail reception and dinner, where the community will get to do what it does best, which is sharing each other's fellowship, prove that there is no competition in compliance, and simply share with each other the learnings from the previous year. So that is the totality of day one. Moving on to day two, we begin tomorrow morning at 8:30. Registration begins from 8:30, goes to 9:30, and the content begins at 9:30 with opening remarks. At 9:40, we'll be moving on to data presentation from the 2024 World's Most Ethical Companies data. So my colleague Neil Thurston, he gave just sort of a glimpse in today's session. Tomorrow will be a much bigger deep dive where he will really get into the nitty-gritty of some of the most compelling data from the world's most ethical companies. I will say this session last year was by far our most highly watched session of the entire Global Ethics Summit. So by all means, make sure you spend some time on checking this out, because the data that Neil will be dropping will be absolutely fantastic and you won't want to miss it. That starts at 9:40 and goes until 10:10. And then beyond that, we have our main stage session at 10:10 going all the way to 11, which is the view from the boardroom, how ethics and compliance can be a not so secret weapon. This is a panel discussion with thought leaders from Morrison Foerster, General Motors, Anywhere Franchise Brands, and Eli Lilly and Company. So once again, another great panel discussion you're not going to want to miss, and that will bring us into the mid-afternoon breakout sessions. So I'm going to stop there because that's an awful lot to digest. But as we come to the end of BELA Day, it's kind of amazing to imagine this is actually one of the short days at the Global Ethics Summit. Tomorrow is going to be wall-to-wall, fantastic content. We'll be broadcasting from the Ethicast booth live during every session break. So be sure to come by the Ethicast booth and say hello. We'd love to have you. I'd love to hear you tell your story. So with that in mind, I'm going to end the stream now and join the festivities in the other room. But be sure to report back here early tomorrow morning where the Global Ethics Summit Day 2 will get off to a bright start. Once again, thanks so much for joining us. I'm Bill Coffin, and this has been the Ethicast.